The last video I did was on Friday, and I said that, look, I'm going to be buying some more miners. I think the markets are going to bounce. I think the GDX, GDXJ has come down a lot. I'm going to buy Monday, and it's what I did. I didn't get to do a video on Monday, but trust me, I bought. In fact, I was so keen on buying, I started to buy pre-market a little bit, that I bought a bit more during regular hours. And then yesterday, Tuesday, essentially the miners started to move up a little bit, but in my opinion, they could actually move back down again. And I say that because of what I see in the general market. So although I think that was a level to buy and I bought it, I do actually think the markets may take us down or at least hold us from going higher. And I'm going to talk about that in this video. So let's start with the S&P. Now, the S&P, this ascending line, I think it was a slight bounce zone, although technically it's bounced a little bit, but it really hasn't bounced much. And to be honest, the way we closed yesterday at low of day, it indicates it wants to test it again. There's a lot of selling pressure, and it really does convince me even more that this was a head fake. Yes, this was a breakout of a technical, descending line. A lot of people know that. I do think this was an ascending bounce, but this could just flush and then down we go to the next level. I think these levels are all correct, basically. I haven't touched these levels. I think if we do today, we'll probably start trading lower because we closed at low of day, touch this, bounce a little bit, and actually go lower. And then the whole picture starts to change, not because of the S&P, but because of the Dow. Now, let me just go to the Nasdaq very quickly. You can see very similar. Okay, head fake. We're trying to bounce here. This was a bounce zone, and the GDX did bounce, and gold and silver did bounce yesterday, right? I mean, gold was at 1830, which was the last support zone. So that's obviously resistance. Silver also bounced 1.5%. So I'm not unhappy with my buys. I'm just looking at the general markets and thinking, look, okay, Nasdaq wasn't exactly, destroyed yesterday. It was basically unchanged, but still, it's going to move back down here and test this low. What if it loses this low, like the S&P loses its closest support zone? Then we go back down here. Imagine you have the Nasdaq starting to close below this line, like here. Everyone's gonna, or at least a lot of people I think are gonna say, okay, we're gonna go to the second last support zone now. Not in a straight line, but yields are going to new highs. That we have the excuse to make this move. The S&P, if we close sort of here below that sort of this zone here, then we'll go here. The S&P's got some time before it hits its lows, but still, next support zone, we're not too far away from this vacuum. But the Dow Jones, this is the one that caught my attention. I remember saying, look, on the way up, it led the way, incredible stuff. It was the strongest by far during these bullish times here. But now look at this close. I mean, even for the least knowledgeable technical trader, you can see that we're very close to a very obvious support zone, and there's nothing, nearby. I mean, you could say we're going to stop off here maybe, but a close just a little bit lower than where it closed yesterday kind of guarantees a big move down. So the Dow Jones could lead us on the way down, just as it led us on the way up. Something I said during this period here, and I haven't said it for a while, but looking at this now, I'm convinced that could take place. The Russell, it's not the weakest out there, but look, once everything starts to move down, this will move down to this ascending support. And honestly, if it just loses this ascending support, I mean, then it's really looking very weak like all the others. So I think the takeaway here is the Dow Jones is the weakest looking one, and it could really take us down. And we got some charts out there, probably the Nasdaq being the one that's very close to the lows. And a small move down could really make the whole thing. Think about it. I think if it's trading just here on a random day and it just has one bad day, that's it. Like it just takes one flush and we're here. And then it's guaranteed, really. Then it's just bam. And then we're making new lows in the Nasdaq. And you can see where I think the next support zone is. But yeah, I think the point is markets are not looking good. The VIX, though, you'd expect more, but I've said that a lot. This should just move up and go to 26 as the market goes down. And I do think the market will go down, actually. I don't think it will bounce much. I mean, how much of a bounce can we have? S&P, I mean, we kind of forced to start a bit low because of the way we closed at low of day, but we'd really have to bounce, and I don't know, I guess it would have to take out this sort of zoomed in descending zone and then try and reclaim. Let's see. But anyway, markets looking weak. Let's look at yields. Yields, just as I thought we may sort of level off, just go back down a bit. And to some extent, we have sort of, gone sideways for a few days. I do think we're going to go higher. 2-year, I mean, look at that. I remember talking about it down here that we're going to break out. Look at this, just constant. I mean, I wouldn't even call this a staircase up. I'd call it a very sort of, I don't know, an elevator almost. This is just incredible. Just hitting our head here on resistance. It could happen today. Why not? Just to close above here. And I'll get to this, but the European yields just did that. 5-year, still not really leveling off and going down. I was looking for a little sort of retracement sideways before going up. I still think we're going higher, but this is just kind of non-stop. I haven't touched these annotations, these trend lines in a while, but I mean, look at that. That's I mean, really, that's the 10-year just trading above the horizontal still. Hasn't really retraced much. So I don't see why it can't just keep going higher. 30-year still hasn't closed above this. But again, that can happen any moment. And then there's the European 10-year. Look at this. It completely closed above it yesterday for the first time. That was, for me, it was this and the Dow Jones, the EU 10-year and the Dow Jones, for me, the most important things, most important metrics. To me, it suggests yields are not going to go down much. They could go sideways, like I said, a small sideways move, and the 2-year is the most important one. That's the one the Fed has to chase. And I say chase because the Fed is behind the 2-year. I think it's at 4.5 or something. So kind of has to raise rates, more than it thinks. And I think people are starting to digest this reality that rates are going to stay high for longer, or even go higher than the Fed thinks for longer. And you got some inflation numbers out, right? Yesterday, Europe, inflation is higher. It is higher. I've said this, it's not going down. It's going to sort of stay elevated, and it could even scare us and make new highs. And that's the fake government numbers. So, and now you've got inflation in Main Street, not Wall Street. You've got it in food prices, and it's very hard to hide that. And to convince the consumer they're only facing 6% inflation when the energy bill's up 50% and stuff like this. So for me, yields up, like look at even the British yields, impressive move higher. This was the government that was convincing everyone they really had it under control. They would really, clamp down on inflation, but yields have not gone down much. I think that's the takeaway. And some of the critical ones are starting to close above very stressful levels like the EU 10-year and the 2-year. Okay, let's look at the dollar. The dollar has come down a little bit. I did say, look, we're reaching this horizontal. I don't expect to close straight above it. We could go sideways. I think the point was we're going to go sideways. We've made a nice move in the dollar and yields. And because gold, silver, the miners have hit the level, and because yields have made a big move, I expect a small reversal. That did happen, but it was very small. And the dollar, we did reverse. Look at this. This was the day really where I was saying we've got to buy, So on Friday I said I'm going to have to do it on Monday. And then this is what happened on Monday. We had a big move down in the dollar. That's why I started to chase pre-market too. It wasn't, the levels I got were still below where they are now, but I thought they were going to have a sort of decent retracement and then go higher. Yields also. But to be honest, so far we're still sort of consolidating near the highs, just a bit off it. But if the markets go down, if yields go up, basically this continues, and this has a lot of room to go. I do think the dollar should be kind of trading all the way up here. If it was to follow yields, it should be even higher than there. But at the moment, it's relatively weaker than yields. Okay, now let's look at commodities. So, yeah, this surprised me. The copper bouncing off this zone. To me, when it closed where it closed, which was below 4, below this support, below the ascending, I thought it was destined for here, and it reversed very strong. That's weird, actually. I don't really see many charts do this, especially after a very strong down move, 3-day down move, and then you got a 3-day up move. It's very strange. I don't know if there was some local supply and demand news that did that, but that wasn't expected. So I am not really too sure how to call copper at the moment. I still think we drift lower because I think the markets will go lower. And now I think that with yields and the dollar looking stronger than I expected, I think commodities are still going to get a bit of pressure. So I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm not trading copper, so it doesn't matter too much for me. But I would be, I'd be a seller up here if I had it, I guess. I'd take some off over here because I do expect commodities to be slightly under pressure if yields keep going up. I think yields going up and the markets going down are going to override everything else going on in the background. Natural gas, absolutely beautiful. We were looking for this. So now it's more obvious. I hate to play the 2020, but you break out the descending, then you retest it, and then you bounce off that. And it looks like that's exactly what this did. So I thought it was a real strong buy here. And then it went low, and I said, look, I don't really understand. You're gonna have to play the big picture, macro, zoom out, take a long-term view, kind of bag holding vision. But when you're bag holding natural gas, it's better than bag holding a Chinese startup that could go bankrupt any day. So not the worst thing. And since here, look at this. This is beautiful candle over candle, very strong closes. And then as soon as we close above 2.7, I said especially, but this horizontal, whatever it really is, 2.66, this day here on that Monday, very strong. That was really the most obvious technical, not buy, because you don't want to buy after this huge move up, but bottom, the bottom is in. And then we continue. And this is with some of the commodities being weak on these days, the dollar, the interest rates. This just means natural gas is totally oversold. We're going up. We're done with this move down. And if you're lucky enough to get a move down, then buy the double bottom. I mean, I know anything can happen. And, everyone always says that this could happen, but this could happen just to cover themselves. But, if this went all the way back down, I mean, come on, you buy that, that's so unlikely to go lower unless there's some new discovery of energy or something. So, but anyway, I mean, it's made a nice move up. I wouldn't be buying this, but I still think we're going all the way up to, like I said, 3.54. You could see that any day. Not any day, but very soon. So long term, remember, zoom out, look where we were for valid reasons during a war. And now the war has intensified. Russia's basically going to win the war. And we're all the way down here. It makes no sense. Oil, just shopping between this channel. So I'm still sort of bullish oil overall. I'm not in it, but I wouldn't be buying it in the middle of the zone. But still, I think it's a decent buy, where these targets are. If we even get there, to be honest, we could get a little flush. And I think it would be a buy the flush type of trade, actually. So, but yeah, I think it's just trading between the channels. I do expect it to hit the low 90s sort of any day. I mean, it could just move up now, break out on any news. It would, they justify it through news, but for me, it would just be technicals also. It's worth the trade all the way up to 90s, low 90s. Okay, gold and silver. So yeah, I thought that we would hit 1830, then go for 1800. And it was on this day, on this Friday, where we closed at low of day, where I thought, okay, I should be buying Monday. I did. So, and you can see what happened. Basically, we hit 1807. For me, it's the same as 1800. And actually, on this day, what am I talking about? We actually did hit 18. Okay, so we went for 1800. So I basically got that level right. And now, as of this morning, we're above 1831, which is great. It's nice technical trading, but I'm just wondering, how high do we go? And actually, it's very hard to call because at the back of my mind, I'm thinking about this dollar, this rates, and the general markets that will take everything down. For now, we're trading okay, but the day is young and we have lots of news. So far, we're quite strong. But sorry, I just haven't looked at gold yet. 1830 normally I would have said is resistance, which we've we're trading at now. Just because we're 1831 doesn't mean we're done. You know, we could easily just go down a few dollars, and 1830 is now resistance again. So 1830, we still need to sort of close above after the whole day. And then I guess the next resistance would be the 1850 zone, 1845, more like. I'm going to remove this descending because it's just not counting. It's too close a period. I'm going to really think that these couple of days here where we hit our head on 18, let's say 45, let's clear that before we go to the next level. But it could be that 1830 or 1845 is resistance, and then we sort of go back down to test 1800 again. I could really see that. I'm trading this bounce, the bounce that we're in right now. But I've got to imagine that this is possible. And then, oh, okay, we're going to go all the way back down to 1730. How about I sell what I bought here if I get to do that? And now the GDX, I haven't gotten there yet, but the miners haven't moved up too much. But still, I prefer to trade them on a 2% gain rather than a sort of minus 6% loss. So if I think the miners are going to go lower, I'll sell them for a very small gain or even for no gain if I think I can get them lower. But the point is, it's just what I've seen on the markets is making me doubt that this bounce in the miners and the metals will be that much. But so far, so good, right? Buy 1800 is a good buy. Let's see what happens. Silver, even better. Now, I did say 21. we sliced through 21. And on that Friday, on this Friday, when I saw this, I said, okay, next trend line is this one. And okay, that day on that Monday, I remember it touched it. I thought, wow, that was perfect. And then actually Tuesday, yesterday, because this is Wednesday morning, we did actually close even below, not close, we were trading just below that. So, I mean, beautiful drop in silver, all the way back down to total last support. Honestly, like this little tail here, where's the next tail? It's like there. And to be honest, if you were trading down to try and get here, you'd end up hitting this ascending support. So basically, we hit the very last support before the grand ascending support, which is amazing because I remember there are a lot of people who were bullish silver here, me kind of included, but I refused to buy. I was selling all my miners up here. I remember just looking for this drop, and this drop, now that it's come, you know, you can sort of sit back and say, okay, from the high, that's a 17%, you know, 15% drop basically on average. Most traders would have felt a 50% drop if they were buying this sort of high zone. That's a big drop, you know. So very happy for silver to have bottomed, I would say, for now here. But let's see, like gold, you know, we've moved. This is a nice bounce so far. You know, how much of a percent from the bottom to the top? 3%, 3.5%. But where do we go from here? Maybe we hit the prior support zone of here. Maybe we sort of go up here and then back down again, you know. But you wouldn't want to see a flush of this, because if we do go up and then back down again and sort of trade sideways like this, you don't want to see a flush here, because then the ascending support is so close that maybe that gives way. But for me, I don't care, you know. I would just say, look, I bought silver here. You could just take the bigger zoomed out approach. Then you zoom out and say, okay, I bought silver there. Silver is now going back down to its absolute lows of $18. You know, you've got to remember why you're in silver, or maybe in silver miners. So if you buy here and it's going lower, okay, then look towards $18. You bought the 2021 zone, zoom out, and you've got to have your thesis where you think long term is going all the way up to 30. And everyone says 50, but it doesn't get there straight away. So as long as you can trade the long-term fundamentals of it, it shouldn't really matter too much if it does go back down, even flush lower. But for me, the bounce is good. And I think we could get to, honestly, I haven't looked at this yet, but I'm going to say something like 2150. If it gets to 2150, maybe even 22, I'd sell that. But honestly, it's a bit too hard to call right now how strong it might be because of what I think might happen in the market. So if it starts to look weak and my miners are in the green, which they already are, what I bought on Monday, then I could just sell for small profit and just get out. If I think it's going to go lower, I could buy lower. That's how I swing trade my long-term positions, because I sold a lot up here and on the way up. So I had a lot to buy back, and I bought back. I bought back 2 tranches so far. Let's look at the miners. So likewise, they came down even more. And here, I actually had a descending line to go by too. So not only did we have this support zone, and I was looking at the gold and silver, of course, judging my entry based on gold and silver. But when I saw this descending line, and I remember showing this, the 15-minute, and look at this date here on Monday, straight away. This is why I bought pre-market. I thought this would happen. It did. And then during regular hours, I also bought a little bit, some of them a little higher than I did pre-market. And so far, it's just continued to move up. So this is nice technical trading. But again, I just feel like it's too weak, to withstand a market rout. So if today we have a small move higher, with gold and silver, maybe it opens here, for example. I don't really know where the level is. Quite hard to call. Let's just maybe say here 29, nice number. If we even get there, probably won't get there today. But if I start to see, movement up, and then the GDX and GDXJ start to move down with the markets, which they move with the markets now these days, and I feel like the market's going to flush, I just sell wherever it is, especially if it's in the green. And then I expect this to come back down again. And then let's see what happens if we hit this. Because if we come back down, sorry about this, if we come back down, the GDX is, we're going to sort of, it's a bit like silver. We're going to be very close to this ascending support. We could flush this. I don't see that happening for the next 1 or 2 days. But if we hit this, 2650 where we bounced, then we flush, okay, we could hit ascending and hold that. But, if the market's really routing, no offense, but the mine is just going to have to go all the way back down to here. Even though this chart so far has just gone all the way down, you'd expect to bounce, which is why I bought it. But it could just, move down with the markets. So, but anyway, just as to me, it looked crazy going all the way up like this. Going all the way down is a buy too, right? Buy low, sell high. GDXJ, same thing. Just beautiful, beautiful entry. Really, I think this zone was great. It was harder to call in GDXJ because it lost this ascending support too. But again, that's why I look at other metrics. I look at gold, I look at silver, I look at the GDX, which had not lost its ascending support, which is seniors that are more durable, that are more likely to bounce than juniors. I'm looking at the dollar, at rates. You got to look at all these things together and just come up with a decision and then make that move. At some point you got to risk. You got to say, I'm in. So, but anyway, same sort of dichotomy. I feel like the bounce is nice, 2-3%, but I was looking for 10, maybe 5 to 10. Let's see, 34, 35. If it gets there, I may even take some off the table, because what I'm seeing in the markets, what I'm seeing in rates, I feel like we're not done. And with that said, I'm done with this video. I'm gonna make another one. I'll cover the other the Bitcoins and all that, but this is a long video, so I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed that, found that value. Thanks.